back and bigger than ever. It's the unofficial 40 from Soonerscoop.com. Now, here's the entire Sooner Scoop crew. Carrie, Josh, Eddie, and Bob.
All right, welcome back. It is Bedlam week, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. It is the unofficial 40 podcast brought to you by Midfirst Bank. Go to midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40 and apply for the OU Rewards credit card as they make the podcast happen. Well, welcome in, everybody. It is time for Bedlam as the Sooners already in the Big 12 championship game against Baylor, but the college football playoff rankings are out. The Sooners are number 7. It seems that they have a path that they have not had before, just basically a couple of teams standing ahead of them in Utah and Alabama. And if they can win Bedlam, if they can go and defeat Drew Brown, if Jalen Hurts can go in there single-handedly lead them without anyone else's help, because he is the entire team all on his own. First off,
defense
is Mike Gundy oh boy, listen, don't get Eddie started yet, okay? Is Mike Gundy, first off, welcome everybody, Josh McQuistion.
The way that Mike Gundy's been talking this week, he could probably get a job with ESPN by next week.
Is he playing mind games, do you think?
Yes.
100%. When you think about things like that, you hit on topics over and over again. Triple option team. Like, he said it like 4 times, and then he said, it's all him. It's all him. It's all him. Like, all the narratives that Oklahoma doesn't want the rest of that roster to feel, he hammered home over and over and over again.
And is he also, let me ask you this, is he also trying to make it where Jalen Hurts tries to prove that he can throw the football in this game? Like, you think that Mike Gundy believes that if he can kind of goad Lincoln Riley and Jalen Hurts into throwing the ball more, that bodes well for them?
I 100%. I mean, I don't even know how anybody thinks that's anything but. It's a smart play because you look at it on paper, and I don't see a lot of ways this goes well for Oklahoma State. That's the game I'd play, is try to get them to do something that OU doesn't want to do.
See, I feel like I've just seen this game unfold too many times that Oklahoma State had no business even giving Oklahoma a game, and all of a sudden you look up and it's a 7-point game in the fourth quarter. And particularly for an Oklahoma team that, be honest, they just cannot cover. They cannot cover the spread.
The thing about Oklahoma is it doesn't matter. They can get down huge. They can get up huge. It doesn't matter. Whatever happens in the first half doesn't matter. They're going to find some way to either come back or let the other team back into it. It's mind-boggling. It drives you insane.
We've talked about it time and time again, and I think it was even more emphasized on the TCU postgame podcast, was just the fact that this team is so sporadic and just schizophrenic that you have no idea what you're getting. But if you take a kind of a step back from everything, listening to guys like Kel Gundy and Bill Beatembo and even Lincoln Riley after the game last Saturday against TCU.
He was pretty chipper Monday, too.
And, yeah, Monday. I think they feel like they're getting pretty close to getting this thing put together as far as playing all 3 phases at the same time. And, you know, Josh, if you take away, and believe me, you can't just take away turnovers. But at the same time, Oklahoma was driving in, getting ready to go up 18 in that game, and all of a sudden he throws a pick six, CeeDee Lamb falls down, pick six, and all of a sudden it's a one-possession game. If you can take away a couple of those turnovers, Oklahoma played pretty damn well on Saturday.
I've said it all week. I think that was a couple of turnovers away from being maybe Oklahoma's most complete performance of the year. Like and it was a lot like when you looked back at that Baylor game. You take the turnovers out of the thing, and OU dominated in just about every category you could ask for. Time of possession, yardage, yards per play. I mean, you just run down that list.
The stats were ridiculous as far as one-sided.
And I don't love...
This defense is a disaster, Eddie.
All right, let's just get it out of the way.
Let's do it.
Yeah.
F***ing Jim Mora, what's his problem? What is your problem, dude? Like, go ahead, Josh. Finish your thought, and then we'll go right into Jim Mora, because I'm ready to eviscerate him.
You know I'm there with you on that.
Vaporize his ass.
Well, Jonathan Vilma is not exactly innocent in this thing either.
He's not.
No, and in the
Neither's
past
Heather
15
Dinich.
minutes,
He might have said something worse, which was that OU's defense let them down against TCU. Like, how the hell do you have that take coming out of that game?
well, in the last 15 minutes, Tom Luganbill has joined the train, so he's
Hold on.
responded to some things some people have said.
I got to Tom Herman my microphone. Hold on. Okay. Headbutt.
The next time Tom Luganbill says something that's meaningful will be the first time.
That hurt.
Yeah, he's quoting the scores that OU's given up in the last 4 games, like with zero context. Yeah, 31 and 24 were really on the OU defense, the Baylor and TCU scores. But that's I just don't want to give Tom Luganbill the time. But yeah, no, I don't know how you look at either. I mean, even in the Baylor game, the defense wasn't great in the first half, but I mean, Oklahoma's offense did them no favors, and they're talking about Jalen Hurts like he's carrying this team across the finish line when basically the last 2 games have been won in spite of Jalen Hurts.
Yep.
I mean, they literally, and I tweeted it yesterday, they would have been better off just saying, we didn't watch the games, no comment. Like, I think that would have been, okay, I mean, you're not doing your job, but okay.
At least we don't think that you're massive idiots and tools.
Like, I just don't. How Jim Mora could come to the decision that Oklahoma has been a disaster, and what was the other thing they said as far as they've been something about effort, not giving effort?
He said since the first 7 games, you know, that their defense, hasn't been playing with the attitude or the effort that they showed earlier. There's some, it's just. It gets more infuriating every time you hear it. So it's almost at this point, I can't even remember what he said. Bob Prispillo is on the podcast. Apparently, Bob, are you trying to say the fewest words possible so everyone blames us for talking over you?
No, I mean, there's nothing to add on this one. This was just so stupid. So that's not my wheelhouse. That's not my wheelhouse to get fired up.
To be a dick to people?
So, I mean, we know it was completely
I like
asinine
dragging people
the entire time. So.
Bob's so much nicer than the rest of us. Like, Bob's like, no, it's stupid. We all know it's stupid. Let's move forward. And we're all like, kill him.
Yeah, there's people that do that much better than I do. I don't kill people very well.
I do. I mean, stuff happens all the time. People say stupid stuff. I mean, people, sometimes people get caught with prostitutes and lose their jobs, or, get on a tape biting someone's ass or something like Marv Albert did. Like, they have reasons that they deserve to lose their jobs, even though Charles Barkley never lost his job and Greg Anderson kept his job. Those are 2 prostitutes.
Who doesn't wear pantyhose every once in a while in a hotel room with a transvestite hooker?
Yeah. Well, Marv Albert.
We actually talked about that this morning. You think Marv Albert would be able to survive in 2019 if that would have happened again? Like, I said that he would have been dead in 6 months.
He didn't really survive. He had to leave and then come back. I mean,
see, I really
basically
don't remember
TNT
that.
saved his career.
Did they?
Like CBS or NBC or
networks, the
they
networks
would not have kept him. Yeah.
Yep.
So the fact he's on TNT really, saved his bacon. But the thing is, like, what Jim Mora did, it's almost as morally bankrupt as getting caught with a transvestite hooker in a hotel room. Like, you don't do your job. Like, you don't give a shit enough to do your job. You did it so poorly. All I can say is get the out of here. Like, just, you can't do this job anymore if that's the way that you're going to operate. He deserves to be fired.
It
was shocking on multiple levels as far as the incompetence that they displayed. And then just not only that, but I think the show was taped. So to put that on television is a little bit on, just from like a production side, that's on the producer and whoever's putting it out there.
And I wonder, does Heather Dinich not watch football? She just talks to committee members because she didn't do anything to...
She said that was a great point.
Oh, yeah.
She did. That was the worst offense of them all.
And then she was kind of like, ha, 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 yeah, Oklahoma does suck. I mean, it was just like, what are you doing? Like,
I'm ready to.
I've never been a big defender of Heather Dinich, but I'm always one of those people like, I don't want to go out and rip women because that starts a whole thing. It's kind of like, I don't want to, but I just think that there's a responsibility to not, because people are going to pile on.
Why are you pointing at the Sherry Cole Media guy? What does that mean?
If you can find a Sherry Cole Media guy in this house, I'll give you $100.
Hey, come on, do it now.
If I can find anything in this house, give me $100.
It can't be a digital version because they give you those USB sticks sometimes. No, but I mean, like people are willing to jump on women in sports, all the time. Like, so I try and stay away from that. But she didn't do her job. I mean, she just didn't either. But I don't think she should be fired like Jim Mora.
Was this just taped so late at night that none of them realized what the heck they were saying?
It doesn't. The whole thing doesn't make any sense. But at the end of the day, it is funny that, like, if Oklahoma wins the next couple games and they do get into the college football playoff, the amount of butthurt coming from the SEC country is going to be like, you might as well just boil it down and let me stick it right into my veins.
Unless Auburn wins. Because then that narrative's going to go away.
Which I think's a possibility this weekend.
I do too.
Although if Georgia loses a close one to LSU, you're going to get that same argument that they should still be in.
They'd still have the worst loss too.
Yeah,
South Carolina is not looking any better weeks and weeks later.
I would say though that while Oklahoma does have a path, there are definitely chaos scenarios that could still derail this whole thing for Oklahoma.
Oh, if Georgia beats
LSU,
everyone
everything
is screwed. Yeah,
correct.
By the way, I don't think that can happen. I really don't. I mean, Georgia, their offense has been so bad this year. I don't think they can score enough points. As good as their defense is, I just don't think they can score enough points against. I know LSU's not a great defense. I just don't think they can score enough points.
Josh is just burying Tom Luganbill on Twitter right now.
Is he really?
Let's go live.
Josh, you said you weren't going to do it.
It's because Tom Luganbill is the most offensive national media member to Josh because he covers recruiting without covering.
He covers quarterbacks.
Josh hates Tom Luganbill like I hate Tom Lemming.
Makes sense.
Yeah, there's probably some fair in that.
Yep.
Luganbill is just one of those guys that, like, he wants to be an expert in college football. He wants to be an expert in recruiting, and I don't think he's an expert in either.
Right.
And I mean, like, and it's not. I've met the guy. He's not a bad guy or anything like. He's not. He's not, the people that try to turn this into some like vendetta. I don't think that's what it is.
Who is the guy that they hired?
There's not a conspiracy out there. Like I told people all day yesterday. Now
opinion.
You know who he is? He is the Joe Shad of recruiting.
Oh my God!
Like Joe Shad was
a guy that rose far and
the
fell
most
fast.
worthless national college football reporter that has ever existed. Now I think he's a beat writer for
Dolphins,
the
right?
Dolphins,
Yeah.
which that's what he should be doing. He should be a local beat writer, not a national football
for the worst team in the NFL or one of the worst.
Not like the college version of Woj. I mean, that's essentially what he was supposed to be.
Sure.
And then they tried to hire Brett McMurphy, and then ESPN fired everybody. Sorry, Bob. I know that's bad.
You know what ESPN's problem is ESPN's problem is they have so many people on that network right now that have,
they have to do
what would be
shows
a
all the
platform
time,
or a voice that the barometer or the totem pole or whatever it is between, like, I still have a lot of respect for Kirk Herbstreit. I think he does a good job still.
And he cares and he works hard.
I think Dusty does an incredible job.
Yeah.
I
He's
think
fast rising for a reason.
Orlovsky does a great
Dan
job.
Orlovsky,
Yeah, I think he does a good job. But those guys are so high up on the whatever you want to call it. There's just that bottom level of guys like your Jim Moore is not an analyst. He's a football coach.
Yeah.
Like he shouldn't be on television.
They're trying to fill a bunch of shows. I mean, and because they are not as devoted. I mean, like Jake Trotter. Jake Trotter is a great college writer, and they tried to make him national, more regional, and he was doing what he had to do because they really stripped. I mean, Bob was a part of this. I mean, they had a big college football network, and they stripped it. You know, it was a strip mine. I mean, they went in there and they just leveled it. And so then they were kind of working, you know, on a string, you know, budget. I mean, what's the phrase there I'm looking for? They were just working on a half-ass budget, trying to keep on top of college football. And like they got rid of Brett McMurphy, was the only guy that was really giving them any information or breaking any news. And they wouldn't, you know, they didn't have a Bruce Feldman. They didn't have the national guy. They never really have had that guy. And then they get rid of, you know, all the local people. And so then you got just this little, you know, piece of ESPN that was focused on college football. And so you don't have any news breakers. You don't have any reporters. I mean, they have a reporter for every NFL team, right?
Correct. Yep.
Every Major League Baseball team, I think.
For the most part.
For the most part, yeah.
I don't know. I think
like they don't have that type of devotion to college football.
They go by conference.
News.
That's how they tried to do it. They tried to do it by conference.
And
I think
so
there's
what
a
they
couple
have
guys that like cover like the Dodgers and the Angels, like two cities, or one city, two teams.
So what they have now is they have all these college football shows. They have Heather Dinich, and they have all these people like Emmanuel Acho, and and then they've got Greg McElroy, who's fine. I like Greg McElroy. I don't think he's an idiot, but
he's a dick. I don't know if he's an idiot.
Yeah, I mean, but
he's somewhere in between the actual analyst and talking head.
Yeah,
I don't know what that middle ground is.
He does that show that it's on the SEC network that I think is pretty decent.
Sure.
With what's his name, Booger, or Marcus Spears, who's way better than Booger.
I think Marcus Spears is really good.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, but they have these shows and they're trying to fill time and all that stuff, and people just talk too much and they're not really committed to that job. I'm sure Jim Mora has better things to do than sit around and watch Oklahoma play Baylor.
Oh, I'll be honest. Like last week was the first weekend that I actually had time to be able to sit down and watch Ohio State live. That was the first time I was able to watch Chase Young. I'd seen highlights. I'd seen parts of their games, but I hadn't sat down and watched all of it. So for me to talk about Ohio State in some type of wide scale, summary of their season would be inaccurate. And that's basically what they're asking all these guys to do. And to a certain extent, that's what we're asking the college football committee to do.
But they're asking them to talk about the top 10 teams in the country. They're not asking them to talk about Iowa State in depth or Oklahoma State in depth.
It's just wild to me that it's obviously not being done. These guys aren't doing their jobs. And B, how narratives have just fueled college football as far as...
No, that's exactly what it is.
That's all it is.
Yep. Nothing ever changes because no one ever notices when things change. Like, it's easy to rely on narratives that are, 3, 4... That's how you do talk shows most of the time. This is what everybody always says, so I'm going to repeat it, and there you go. There's your... because you just kind of treat people like they're all...
The only in-season thing they've recognized is the LSU offense. Everything else is just based off...
Nobody talks about their defense.
Everything else is just based off what they thought coming into the season.
Yeah.
LSU's offense improvement is the only thing that's actually relevant to what's happened during the course.
And by the way, that was stupid yesterday that they still show Texas as a quality win for LSU.
But not Baylor or Oklahoma.
Not Baylor.
Yeah. Jesus.
Or I don't know about Oklahoma. I know I saw the Baylor.
It wasn't for Oklahoma.
We saw the screenshot with Baylor. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't want to speak about things I didn't see. That's not, that's not a Sooner Scoop method. So.
If Texas is a quality win for LSU, then TCU's a quality win for OU. It's the same difference.
And that's why I said yesterday on Twitter, just as far as ESPN is doing this to themselves. They do this to themselves.
The gripe is always going to be Texas was a different team in September. They still had mojo. They used to
have Caden Stearns.
They still had passion. They still had a reason to play. And then by the time they get to this point in the season, they were done anyway. Because LSU made them done.
It's
exhausting is what it is.
But guess what? Oklahoma's number 7. They've never been in better position since the Kansas State loss.
Because of Baylor. Baylor going up 5 spots. It's not so much
That's the other
OU.
thing. You move Baylor 5
moving
spots.
up 5 makes this realistic now.
I think I said last week, though, like anybody that watches that show on Tuesday night or calls into the teleconference, it's a television show. That's all it is. Like, everybody knows, and I've been saying it forever, that helmet logo.
And then
helmet logo.
Rob Mullins had no answers to why Baylor's making this leap. It's like a course correction of like, wait a minute, they should have been here the entire time. How the heck do we justify it now when they just beat a 6-5 Texas team? And I mean, because they jumped schools that didn't even play or didn't lose last week. But it really helps OU. And again, that's why I think for the first time you can realistically believe the Sooners can make the playoff, because they'll be playing a top 10 team in the Big 12 championship where Oregon will not be there. If Utah beats them, it's not going to resonate nearly as much. And if Oregon beats Utah, of course, that discussion doesn't even matter.
To me, that Pac-12 thing is really interesting because, and granted, OU, they have to beat OSU. We don't know if that's going to happen or not the way this team is played. But that Pac-12 game, to me, like, you have Oregon that is, played in some pretty big games this year. They really have nothing to lose going into that game. They're not playing for a national title. Utah, if anybody was ever going to pucker, it would be Utah in that game. I don't want to say that stage because nobody shows up to that Friday night game anyway.
They still played in San Francisco?
20,000.
At Levi Stadium.
Is that what they're doing again on Friday night before Big 12?
I think it's still there.
Next Friday?
Because the Big Ten's still Saturday night, so they would have to be Friday night. I think they had it in
Palo Alto maybe one year.
Yeah, I think that was before they even had the sponsor. Or not sponsor.
It's always nice to drive back to listening, from one of my last high school games of the year.
Yes.
Listen to it on the radio. It's pretty riveting stuff. Keeps me awake.
So
if OU wants... Oklahoma fans should cheer for Oregon.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Well, yeah,
right.
yeah.
Just get rid of it, yeah.
Well, I mean, we'll see if the pucker factor is there when they play Colorado this weekend.
Well, I mean, if Utah loses to...
I think they win by like 20 to 30.
Yeah.
And then think they're ready, and then Oregon beats them and shows them they're not quite there yet.
We could see. I think Utah's a good football team.
They are, yeah.
I think Utah went out. I think they're better than Oregon. And I think Oregon... When the chips are down, I've yet to see Justin Herbert make a play that impresses me.
Yeah,
like
it's hard to defend that. I mean, he's had multiple opportunities, and I didn't watch the entire game last Saturday, but I went back and watched a little bit of it, and I mean, he was not good against a Arizona State team that I think is extremely pedestrian.
Well, they are. I mean, they're just they hadn't beaten anybody, so
they got beat by Oregon. They were coming off of a loss to Oregon State.
Yeah. Is that quarterback the skinniest quarterback in the history of college football?
Oh, the freshman kid for Arizona State?
Oh, my God.
Mm-hmm.
But he got
now,
a
it's
ton
worth
of ass.
noting he didn't play against Oregon State.
Sure, the freshman.
So, yeah. So, I mean, and he's a good player. He's actually high school teammates with now departed OU linebacker Jonathan Perkins.
No kidding.
Yeah, they were high school teammates.
That.
Really, really good team. They had a really good team last year. So, but no, that's the thing. Like I said, you can look back at that Auburn game. Oregon had so many chances to put Auburn away in that game,
no
and
doubt.
they never could do it. And even if you want to say Jalen Hurts, I guarantee Baker Mayfield or Kyler Murray, they put a drive together and finished that game. If you want to talk about Jalen Hurts, I think he probably finds a way to do that. I never saw that guy do it, and he never looked. I don't know. He just looked shaky to me.
No, I agree, Josh. It is. It's going to be interesting. I mean, there was so much that just went into last week. It should be interesting to see what happens this week. As far as, I don't think there will be too many. I don't think there's going to be any upsets. But
you don't think Auburn beats Bama?
Well, I think that it definitely could happen for sure. I definitely think that could happen.
Does it matter if Auburn beats Bama or if Bama just struggles? Like, if they struggle and win, is that all the committee's really waiting for?
I don't know.
This whole Bama thing is
nuts.
Basically giving me a little bit of a headache, considering. And Josh, I think you've hit it right on the head as far as the only reason Bama is still in this is because people say, "Well, it's Bama."
Guys, I didn't realize it until I started looking at the rankings because I never watched the show. Like, it makes me mad and I don't like it. And I'm a numbers guy.
I watched the whole thing yesterday, and I I gotta say, it's not a terrible show to watch as long as Herb Street's involved, and I mean the studio crew wasn't bad. I mean, I didn't think it was an awful show or anything.
But did you know Baylor actually has a better strength of schedule right now than Alabama?
In Alabama, yeah.
That's insane.
Those numbers don't add up. That can't be true. Alabama plays in the SEC.
Now, I'll totally admit Alabama, with the exception of LSU, has pretty much dominated all comers. Like, I get it.
Yeah, I
But
don't think
they've
anybody's
played
acting like
no
Alabama's
one.
just some shit team. They're good. They're really good.
But their non-conference, I mean, was terrible. I mean, they
Yep.
didn't play
But-
anybody.
And whether it's fair or not, I know that, how do you say, is it Barrett Saleh or whatever? Salehi?
Barrett Saleh, maybe.
Yeah, I know that it would just break his heart, but just
God
because
damn, we really shouldn't have listened to that XM channel on the way home.
Oh, it was. I'm surprised that he was able to talk having to from the SEC.
That's
Mark.
We're never going to get invited back to his show.
that's gonna be one big long.
Yeah, probably should be. It just blows my mind that somebody could argue that, and whether it's fair or not, again, if you don't win your division, you should not be able to play for a national title. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that your division is good. It's the best one in college football. But that doesn't mean that just because you lose a game, it should just be a free pass almost.
It's like saying, okay, A&M, you're right for being douches. Like, you get a pass because you have to play Alabama, LSU, Georgia, and Clemson. Like, we're gonna let you do whatever you want.
By that logic, we should just give
You can be as annoying as you want to be.
We should allow Texas A&M to come back and win the Big 12. That's what we should do.
Because they play competitive
Guess what?
games.
If they played in the Big 12, they'd find a way to lose, 4 games too, because they always did when they were in this conference.
Guys,
That's a
I'm a
fact.
big eye test guy. I believe that I can look at a team and have a pretty good opinion. I watch a lot of college football. I'm into it. I'm not one that totally disregards that. But there has to be some merit. There has to be, you have to have done something. And if Alabama had played a great schedule and lost a classic to LSU, I could probably get my head around that. Alabama hasn't played anyone. And A&M is literally their best win.
You know what this is? This is reverse Skynet. They got rid of the computers,
Made it
and
all
now
human.
the people are taking
The
over.
humans are
The people are ruining civilization because we got rid of the computers.
And I've said this 100
Eddie
times
doesn't
on the
get
podcast.
that.
I have no idea.
that analogy at all.
I have no
It
idea.
never
What?
made any sense to take the computers
You think
out of
Eddie
the
has
playoff.
watched Terminator?
Terminator 2?
God, no.
Come on.
Hell
no
no.
Never.
He has no idea.
Oh.
I don't believe
Eddie,
in
that's
fantasy,
sad.
Bob.
He has no idea that I just made a brilliant analogy.
Dude, I like it.
Eddie, I'm going to check your computer records. I don't believe that you don't.
Please
buy into
don't do
fantasy
that.
At all.
I've done it out of curiosity before, just to make sure.
One of my buddies just tweeted Tom Luganville and said, excellent analysis, Tom. Hope you're able to use it on whatever mid-major game you're doing this weekend. That's funny.
I think he's got a pretty good gig. He's a sideline for, like, I don't know, one of the better teams.
Well, he's always doing that, like, campus corner, like the student section game that they want.
Oh, yeah. the
Taco Bell
student
student-
section. Did they get rid of the chalupa?
Yes, they did, I think.
That's fucking stupid.
Taco Bell has, like, completely redone their menu. It's really
Well, it was
weird.
too big, first off. But to get
Let's
rid
be
of
honest.
the chalupa,
When you go to Taco Bell, you're only getting, like, 4 or 5 different things.
I know. You're getting
Who
the
goes off-
Doritos Locos
Who
taco.
goes off of the beaten path?
You're getting the Mexican pizza. But chalupa was on my list, and now it's gone. Not that I need, to be eating on a Taco Bell.
Never
I'm a
had
firm
Taco
chili
Bell.
cheese burrito kind of guy.
I've never had Taco Bell.
Jesus Christ,
That's
Bob. Never?
See, when I was
Never?
Never.
Ever. You've never had Taco Bell?
No.
when I
we
was
should
in,
That is
Start-
fast. That's the craziest thing I've heard from you ever.
you two both have things where people are just like, "What the are you people?
Like,
what kind of
it's
lives
one
do you
thing-
live?
We didn't see the JFK stuff.
Which was alleged.
Well, I know I saw the JFK stuff.
It
I
hasn't
just
been
never
proven
saw
that
I
it.
never watched that one. Though.
I never saw because I always watch it on television and they don't
show
show the
it.
part where his head gets blown off, like literally where the bullet caves out his head. Like I haven't seen that.
You know why
much
they don't show it
detail
on
before.
television is because some people say it never happened.
I know.
I've seen that footage before, and it looks fishy to me. As a video professional, it looks fishy.
As a video professional at 8mm,
it looks fishy to me. That's all I'm saying.
you know they used to have to take that stuff into a dark room and develop it, right?
Again, you talk about that. I've never seen it happen, so I can't comment.
Oh God. I want to quickly tell you guys about our great sponsor before we get any deeper. Midfirst Bank, go to the website midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And sign up for the OU Rewards credit card. They are the exclusive provider of the OU credit card. Right now, you can earn $150 in bonuses when you spend $1,000 in the first 90 days once you open your account. So they're basically giving you free money. You can get 15,000 bonus points too when you spend your first $1,000. Also, you can redeem your rewards for cash back, gift cards, merchandise, and travel. You can register. Every time you use the card, you register for a chance to win the ultimate game day experience. Every qualifying purchase made with your OU Rewards credit card earns you a chance to win the ultimate game day experience with VIP tickets to a football or basketball game plus $500. So go to that website. You get the OU credit card. It's got the big OU logo on it. Every time you take it out, everybody will know that you're a huge OU fan. At midfirst.com/U40. That's midfirst.com/U40. And thanks to Midfirst Bank for being our title sponsor for the Unofficial 40 podcast this season. Okay, so Bedlam is coming up. Drew Brown is now the core.
wants to talk to you guys real quick.
Uh-oh.
Say hi.
Hi, Lanie.
Hi.
Lanie.
Made her very happy.
Had the headphones on and everything. She is now taking them off and running away giggling. Okay, I'm back now. Sorry. We had the mic all over the place there.
So she just could not. She heard Daddy, and she could not contain herself.
She
any
could.
longer.
She couldn't. She wanted to be part. I mean, guys, you think it's lost on her how big the pod is? It's not. It's not.
Is she speaking English anymore, or she just is Linda raising her as her own now?
No.
Is it like
she
what was
is-
that? What was that? That I actually thought that was a decent movie, like Jack and Jill with Jim Carrey and was it Taya Leone? Where it's about like it's kind of like they work for Enron kind of.
Dick and Jane.
Yeah,
Dick and Jane.
Dick and
Dick
Jane.
Yeah.
Yeah. I thought wasn't Jack and Jill the Adam Sandler
I was like, oh,
movie?
God.
Oh God!
I know
no, that
you
was
said
not
a
a
decent
good movie.
You said decent
No,
movie.
that was terrible. No. No, Fun with Dick and Jane, I think, is what it was. But no, I thought that was an okay movie. But their kid was raised basically by the Spanish nanny or the housekeeper.
I'll be teaching Pearl Spanish.
Why?
I took it for 8 years. I think it'd be a benefit to her to learn it.
You can speak fluent
When
Spanish?
they build the wall, we can send Bob over to cover all the athletes down south of the border.
How are you not like OU's preeminent Spanish-speaking expert? Like they have an entire radio station, like a sports radio station. You could make some extra money, like being the OU correspondent.
I haven't used it since 2006. I'm a little rusty, but I'm sure if I went back
The last
into
Spanish class that I took, I got a D and had to retake the final because I told the teacher that my parents were getting a divorce and I was going back and
my
forth from Norman to
God.
Oklahoma City to take care of my little sister. That's a true story. She felt so bad for me that I was able to retake it.
Are your parents now just learning the story?
I think I've told it on the radio before.
Okay.
Laney knows. To get back to the heart of the question, Laney knows
Oh, and
more
by the way,
Spanish than
my
I
parents
do.
are happily married.
Yeah, they never were getting a divorce.
No. What were you saying, Josh?
I was wow. This fact is not exciting at all after that story. But Lanie is 5 and speaks more Spanish than I do. She's been learning that in class since she was like 2.
Because this is when you do it, between like 2 and 4.
Yeah, and you're also very close to the border, so the kids she grows up with might not live in our country for very long.
I'm just going to say most of her teachers are not Caucasian. Let's just, I'm going to be really honest about it. So it's what it is.
Is that why you had?
That's good. I love them learning Spanish. I'm all good.
They
with
are
it.
a sponge at that age, so this is when you introduce it. That's what I've always been told, and that's what I'm going to do.
Lanie's going to be my translator in no time flat, so that's perfectly fine because I cannot speak any Spanish.
It's pretty wild.
I can count to 10.
I definitely wish that I would have at least paid attention more. I don't know about learn the language, but
what was your foreign language, Eddie? I know you had to take
Spanish.
2 years and See, I took Latin.
Oh, did you?
Ooh.
I don't even think that we were offered Latin, to be honest.
Yep.
So did this big lie, was that in high school or college?
College.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
Because he had to drive back and forth from Norman
to Oklahoma
back
City.
to take care of his sister.
I lucked out in that I got to, I think like right after I was done, like even if you took Spanish in high school, you still had to take it in college. But like I got to not test out, but because I took so many years in high school, I didn't have to take it in college. I was glad.
In Duncan, they were teaching foreign languages.
Oh.
I'm surprised.
Yep.
Well, it's either you had to learn that or learn how to cut out a.
Don't.
Don't.
It's either that or you had to learn how to cut out a ghost. They called it a ghost outfit, didn't they? Came with a hood.
We weren't like Bray Doyle or Marlowe. We were Doug.
Oh, that's
we
my
were
favorite part of the pod is Gary calling out other small towns like Bray Doyle.
We weren't Velma, Elma. We had a major highway running through our town with lots of stoplights.
We love our listeners in Velma, Alma. Come on.
Are you all you Marlowians?
Look,
Marlonites.
Chef Eric Smith at VZB's
Hey, we've been
grew
to
up in
Marlowe.
Velma, Elma, so
I've been to a high school practice in Marlowe.
For who?
No, that was Meeker. Never mind. My bad.
Marlowe hasn't had a D1 football player probably in forever. Now, Bray Doyle did have one. Remember him, Josh?
Aaron Cummings.
There you go.
I drove down to see Aaron Cummings. That was
I remember that.
Like their football, like and it's always tough when you go to a small school like that because they're super proud of their football facility, and it's just like a temporary building, like. And like that's no diss. Like I understand that you only have so many months to go around, but then like you walk into Jinx and they've got like 4 floors at the end of their stadium, and you're like, well,
Yeah, you got to take an elevator to get to the bench press.
Exactly. Like you've got to have a plan to get to Coach Trimble's office, like that kind of deal. So,
I mean, you think about it,
different entities.
Since we've been covering recruiting last week, like Comanche has had a Division I player and Marlowe has not.
Comanche's had several. They had obviously Brandon Crow.
Well, some would argue that Brandon Crow wasn't a Division I player.
They had the offensive lineman that went to Tulsa. I mean, Comanche had several guys there when Dale Condit was there. Now he's at Wagner, and Wagner's turning out Division I guys all the time. So
I mean, I'm sure there's somebody in Marlowe that played at OSU that I'm not thinking about or something.
They had a guy several years ago, and I don't know. I'm trying to remember if he actually made it. Like, I don't think he did, but he was getting some. Like, people were talking about him going into his senior year. Dawson Huddleston's the kid I think I'm thinking of.
Okay, that name,
But no, it
ring
doesn't look
a
like he
bell.
did anything. Yeah, it doesn't look like he did anything. But they've got 2 guys in the Rivals.com database since 2002. So.
By the way, I just want to say this, Eddie. I feel like you're slacking on Green Bean Council this year.
Oh,
Well, I just don't know how much of an opportunity I'm going to get. I had the opening ceremonies on Sunday.
You're not celebrating Thanksgiving with the
Banished
family
from
'cause
his
they're
family.
leaving?
So
Well, I mean, I am.
You've
I'm
been
going to
disowned?
my aunt and uncle's house, so
Your parents won't let you come there.
they're down in
you're
Houston,
going to Houston.
and I'm staying here. As it turns out, I guess it could have worked out that I went to Houston, but staying here. Got to do radio Friday morning,
is-
then I'm
okay.
going to Dallas to meet up with Josh.
So the green bean casserole is number one on your list. Is there any Thanksgiving staple that you just don't care for?
Oh, I mean, probably the stuff that nobody else cares for. Like,
but like you don't have a problem with like
nobody eats yams.
Yams,
I don't
thank you.
believe that
But you don't
anybody
have-
actually
I don't
eats
believe it.
yams.
well, that's the dessert. I mean, but you don't have a problem with like ham being part of Thanksgiving.
No, I love
That's
ham.
fine.
I would prefer
dressing
if you told me that they were going to eliminate turkey and we were only going to have ham. I'd be like, all right, that's fine.
Totally in.
I'm not there with you.
And I like turkey.
To me, ham is
it's
a
not like I
side
don't
meat.
like turkey.
I mean, I like ham. Like if I go to like Vans or something and get the grilled ham and cheese.
See, I
like
just-
Johnny's is.
I just would never do that. I don't eat ham out of season. How about that?
There's no. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
Oh no, Gary triggered.
Thanksgiving is not ham season; it's turkey season. You don't have
ham season starts. Actually, there's
ham
two,
is an accessory.
There's
it's
two
the
different.
accessory
There's two
of
different
Thanksgiving
ham
dinner.
seasons.
It's a side piece of meat.
Ham season starts with Thanksgiving, and you can have ham at any point from the beginning of Thanksgiving to the end of Christmas, and then it comes back around during Easter. You can have ham again.
Guys, gotta break in here.
Yeah, I think so.
We've had a commitment.
I
Just
think
go down
we got
on Twitter.
one.
Oh,
We got. Yep. I'm seeing it too.
Linebacker Shane Whitter had been a Wake Forest commitment, came in last weekend. We were told he was one of the eyes, so this is not a huge surprise, but he has just announced his commitment.
beautiful.
Very nice. And you had hinted that in the scoop last week.
I had hinted that was possible, and today in the Woklahoma, this kind of leads into a conversation. I don't know if we want to get into recruiting right now, but I think this is probably a trade for Edgerrin Cooper. I think this coming in probably kind of spells the end of OU and Edgerrin Cooper, if I was going to guess. Now, numbers can change. We'll see what happens. Maybe there's a departure. Oklahoma wants to change their plans a little bit. But as I understand things at this moment, Shane Whitter and Edgerrin Cooper will not be part of the same class.
Now, is that more to do with
Is that OU's
interest
doing,
level?
or Edger and Cooper just not ever pulling the trigger and them just saying, we got to move on?
I think the problem, as I understand it, with Edgerrin Cooper was they couldn't get a straight answer of, is LSU that serious for you? Because
Sure.
the belief has been that right now LSU can't take Edgerrin Cooper, and if that was to change, did that change things for him? And I don't know that he could ever say definitively, no, I'm good with Oklahoma, it's all done. And Oklahoma, it's not that they don't love Edgerrin Cooper from everything I've gathered. What the problem is, they need an inside linebacker in this class. They have to have one or two, kind of depending on how you want to look at Brendan Walker, where they see him. But they had to have a bare minimum of one, and if Cooper leaves, then you could make the argument that they have none. And that just can't happen, so Oklahoma had to make a choice. And they told Cooper, like, this is where we are, this is what's happening. And that's when I think things started to break down last week, which I kind of touched on in the scoop.
Very nice. So that is one. We can say that is one of the eyes out there.
Yes, that was one of the eyes from Sunday.
So you
correct.
have one left.
One that is still lingering out there. And I think it's going to linger for a while.
Okay.
Correct, Josh?
Yes, my understanding is that could be a signing day announcement. So
Yes.
just kind of
Yes.
you have an idea.
So you don't have to wait too long. I mean, we're talking a couple weeks.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, you're at this point, it's about 3 weeks. So, I mean, it shouldn't be anything that big. I think the player involved wants to take a couple more official visits. 2 is kind of the number that I've heard.
Okay.
And I where he's planning to take official visits to,
Don't be scared.
yeah, I would be pretty confident if I'm an Oklahoma fan. I think this is a kid that hasn't really gotten to do much of the recruiting stuff, and he's having a little fun with it.
So glad we stole a kid from Wake Forest.
There you go. Thank you.
It's where Tim Duncan went to school. Be happy about it.
Oh, is he a swimmer too?
Well, Josh, what is it about Whitter that why should OU fans not act in a redneck voice and actually be excited about him?
Well, some can't help it.
he's really an interesting
say
guy.
about us, Bob.
Bob always doing your redneck hatred. No, with Whitter,
rider, dude.
you have got to find a guy. When I talk to people about him, I think the first thing that jumps off to Oklahoma, this is a smart guy. This is a guy that they like the way he reads, the way he reacts. A lot of the things that you could say people question about Kenneth Murray are the opposite of what you hear about Shane Whitter. He is a guy that's very instinctual react. Well, I'm just telling you.
Can you let him get off campus first? We have to deal with him, all right?
No, and I'm not like, hey.
You just called him dumb.
No. I'm talking about there are times when you see Kenneth Murray between the tackles and like the Max Duggan run, like that looked like that might have been a Kenneth Murray issue.
Yeah,
like,
there's some brain freeze there.
Yeah, like I'm not Kenneth Murray is a sharp kid. Like I've talked about that for a long time, but sometimes on the field you just see things that are hard to explain. And then you watch him make a play that you're like, well, that's just freak talent.
Like when they throw a screen and he runs between four defenders that are supposed to block him, he just blows it up.
Yeah. Anybody thinking I'm dissing Kenneth Murray can read my Twitter. I defend that kid
a
me.
lot. I was actually
and
just
so,
giving you shit.
No, and that's fine. But like with Whitter, I think the instincts are what that's what seems to catch people's attention. But what's interesting is he's run in the 4.5s at some camps. Like he's a guy that I think is kind of underrated athletically. Now we'll kind of see, because I've seen stuff where he's like 6'2", 235, and I've seen other stuff where he's like 6 foot 220. I don't know where the truth is because I just haven't seen the kid. But I do think when you watch him tackle to tackle, that is a very natural inside linebacker, a guy that's going to step up, fill run lanes, do what they want him to do. Now, do I know that he can get out on the edge and make the plays like we're just talking about with Kenneth Murray? I don't know that I'm there on that. I don't think I see that guy. But this is a good first-year land, and for people that would diss Wake Forest is doing really good things right now. Their staff is proving good evaluators because they have NFL talent at Wake Forest. I don't know what else you have to say. You can trust that staff that they see good things, and for them to buy into this kid tells me he's a good player.
It'd be interesting to see the head-to-head recruiting battles between that current Wake Forest staff and Bob Stoops down in Tallahassee.
It's not over. Don't ever give up, Jack. Don't ever give up.
They are not giving up. It's unbelievable.
And guys, we have to own it's not just the fans. It's media people that should know
that
better.
Are still
crazy.
Stoking the fires on this thing.
I kind of love it. I'm addicted to it.
By the way, I want to get to Bedlam.
I know, right? We have to eventually.
But there is the big game coming this weekend, and I know a lot of you guys are going to be busy, with family, and you may want to go. You might sit down with family and say, hey, maybe we should try and get some tickets. Well, let me tell you guys about SeatGeek. They're another great sponsor of the podcast. And we're big fans of SeatGeek. We all use SeatGeek for concerts and sporting events that we go to, whether it's Major League Baseball or, Major League Baseball or Major League because that's the only other sport we go to, right? Thunder, yeah.
I've used it a couple times for Thunder.
Have you? Yeah, but they're great. I mean, they have a great app, the SeatGeek app. Go download it. And they rate all their tickets on a scale of 1 to 10. I'm actually sitting here looking at the Bedlam game this weekend. Prices are not terrible. I mean, the bad thing is that OSU uses this to try and force everyone to buy basketball season tickets. So that's what they're doing right now. But there are, quite a few seats available. And here's a little tip for you. If you go on the SeatGeek app, like I'm looking at this this ticket right now, $119, $128, $133. These are all on that far east side up against the Gallagher-Iba, and that's where all the OU fans are sitting. So some of those tickets are the cheaper ones because OSU fans don't want to buy those because that's where all the OU. So there's lots of those tickets you can go buy up right now if you're an OU fan. But you got to download the app so you can see exactly where these tickets are. So and SeatGeek breaks down all the details. You got the green dots means good deals, red dots are overpriced. And every purchase is fully guaranteed, so you can shop with confidence, and you get the barcode right on your phone and just go right in the game. Also, if you go to the app and you type in the promo code SCOOP, you can get $10 off your first SeatGeek purchase. So download the SeatGeek app today. Use promo code SCOOP for $10 off your first purchase. And I was all phlegmy, so I had to call. Okay, so Bedlam coming up. We talked a little bit about Mike Gundy, mind games that might be going on there. This is a team that has a lot of different reasons to be motivated to go in there and win this one.
Sure.
One thing that we haven't talked about, Josh did offend Kenneth Murray earlier, but Kenneth Murray has a reason to be motivated to play well in this game.
Bob, you talked to him. You talked to him Monday night. He was not a happy camper.
Happy about being left off that Butkus list. Be the fifth had been his mantra the entire season about earning that award.
Butkus award he was trying to win for OU.
Yep,
correct.
And
Lehman, Kalmus, and Boz won it twice.
It was so weird, right? Because fans had been jumping down his throat because of the way that he's played during the last month, and yet we're so quick to defend him when he was quote unquote snubbed. So I don't know. That was a little disconnect for me. If you didn't like the way he played the last month, then you probably agreed he wasn't one of the finalists. But you could tell. When he gets short with his words and he doesn't have a facial expression, that's usually when Kenneth Murray is about as mad as he can possibly be.
Yeah, I'm sure that he didn't want to be sitting in there talking about it either, just as far as coming up short or not being voted in. But it's kind of interesting. I would love to know the mental games that Oklahoma's coaching staff is using, just as far as it almost seems like this is playing right into their hands because they can play into the nobody believes in you guys.
You think if they just have Jim Mora on a loop? Because they have those they have
Probably.
so many TVs in that facility. Yeah. They could just put Jim Mora and Jonathan Vilma on a loop.
Well, and we know that they do that. Make up. Not make up things, but
they're not above making up quotes either. I mean, I'm not saying that's what Lincoln Riley does, but in the past, I remember the year that Florida State came here. Somebody literally made up quotes from Florida State players that they apparently said in the offseason that they never actually said. And they had like easels, like with poster, like somebody had gone to Kinko's and printed up posters and put them on easels, like in the meeting room, so they could see them all summer.
It's amazing.
That was before the 2010 season?
Yes, that would have been 20. Yep.
I think anybody, and we talked about it at the beginning of the podcast, was just the fact that anybody's watched Bedlam over the last, 30 years or whatever. You got to show up. It's not a game that you can just walk into and win.
You can get embarrassed.
But at the same time, I think that I'm somewhere in between thinking that Oklahoma State could win the game or will win the game, and somewhere as far as thinking Oklahoma's the better team. Oklahoma State doesn't have their quarterback. They don't have Tylan Wallace, obviously. I think this is an Oklahoma team that's starting to play a little bit better. You take away the turnovers, you clean that up. I think that they could go up there, and at the end of the day, they are a 14.5-point favorite going into Saturday.
I think this is the easiest game to break down of all time. It is OU's front seven versus Chuba Hubbard.
Sure.
Yep.
I'd believe that.
Look, I think he's probably going to have a pretty good day. I mean, I think he's going to break off a
he doesn't
60-yarder
necessarily
or
have
an
bad
80-yarder
days.
here.
He hasn't had a bad day all year.
No, but what I'm saying is, they're not going to shut him down. He's going to get one or two explosive plays. You just have to keep him from getting 5.
Yeah, if he goes 30 carries for 130 and a touchdown?
I think you
could even against West
take
Virginia,
that, right?
didn't he?
I mean,
no. He only had 100
But he had the receiving yards too.
Yeah, he had
I was thinking about Baylor. He had 220 against Baylor.
Yeah, he had a ton of yards against Baylor.
Because I was comparing.
You know what his quote unquote worst game statistically would be this year?
Go ahead.
Let me guess. Would it have been Texas Tech?
Nope.
Because of all the turnovers?
Nope.
I watched.
Okay, I guess.
I watched the Texas games. I'm gonna say Texas.
Nope.
Kansas.
He had 44 yards against McNeese State. He had 8 carries, 44 yards.
8 carries though.
I think Texas was the next quote unquote worst, and he still had over 100. So, No, I agree with you guys, though. You would think the way that I think Ronnie Perkins is starting to play pretty well.
Yeah.
Jalen Redmond emerged last week as a guy that not only did he have the sack, but I thought he played well just overall. They need those guys up front to play well.
Neville needs to step up.
What do you think, Josh?
I think you guys are right. I mean, because to me, you get to be aggressive up front. You get to be aggressive with your defensive backs. You're going to make that quarterback make throws. You're going to make him beat you with his arm because I don't believe he can do it. And to me, the question is, where is your breaking point with Chuba Hubbard? How many yards does he have to get where you say, okay, Oklahoma might be in trouble here? Like, to me, if he doesn't go for 165 or better, I don't see any way Oklahoma State wins that game.
That's funny because he needs 168 for 2,000.
Yeah. I mean, it's going to be – and, I mean, don't get me wrong. Chuba Hubbard can do that. Like, and he can do it in one play. But to me, it's about – and that's almost acceptable.
2,000 yards in one play?
Wow. Easy there, Faux Pelini.
Yeah, I've seen other people trying to copy Faux Pelini. It's sad. It's a sad attempt.
The only people it's funny to are the people that haven't seen Faux Pelini. Like, everybody else is just a bad imitation. Like, just stop.
It's kind of like how much longer can 3-year Letterman keep living off of Donald Trump's tweets? I mean, probably a while because it's still pretty funny.
Probably going to have 4 more years. So.
Stick to sports. No, but
Eddie Ratto at yahoo.com.
Please indulge me.
Are your DMs open?
Always.
Okay.
Same. So
same here.
Yep.
I'm not the one making Donald Trump jokes.
Don't you think it's
true.
not a joke? It's not a joke. It's
Okay.
not a laughing matter. Don't you think though that, like, I don't know. I just feel like Ronnie Perkins, LaRon Stokes, anybody that Oklahoma throws out there, they should have a heyday against Oklahoma's offensive line, or Oklahoma State's offensive line. I think this is the type of game that you could look back and say this is closer to Texas than what we've seen over the last couple games. I'm not saying they're going to go out and have 9 sacks, but I think that they can get some pressure on Drew Brown. I think that if you get pressure on Drew Brown, you can make him make some bad decisions. This is the second time he started.
If they do go out,
I think Oklahoma's better than West Virginia
and get 9 sacks, does that mean that Jalen Hurts will have 7 turnovers?
Well, that's the thing is I cannot for the life of me wrap my head
around. Will Nick Saban
around.
make the call? 7 turnovers this game, Jalen.
He might.
Because we all know that Nick Saban is controlling Jalen Hurts.
You already said that Auburn's the best team they've played the entire season.
Is it too easy of an analysis to say that part of the Hurts turnovers have just been pure flukish in a way, and the other part is just being careless?
I don't know. Against Iowa State, remember, he had 2
he did.
pick sixes.
He did.
Sure. Potentially that he threw
absolutely.
early in that game.
But like the fumble in the goal line against Baylor, is that Baylor making a pretty good play? I mean, he wasn't even really touched.
It wasn't the most secure ball,
right?
Though.
Yeah.
When you're that close to the goal line, yeah.
The guy just reached his hand in and knocked out. It wasn't like he had to punch it or make a violent motion to. They just ripped the ball. They just kind of.
Maybe I'm just looking to make excuses for him then, because I just feel like some of the stuff has just been. It's almost been crazy to go back and watch
that
it.
That TCU play was just like mind-boggling. That he was able to rip the ball out.
I think it was a pretty good play.
It was a great play. It was an unbelievable play.
And it was really unbelievable in that he was able to not only take it from Hurts, but have total possession for himself when he landed. That ball should have just shot out wild somewhere. But instead it was, it never really was out of possession. Hurts had it and then Bradford had it, and that was it. But no, to me, like one game, maybe 2 games you could write off. This is because really since Texas, this has been a little bit of a pattern for
sure, and that's the problem.
Texas, Iowa State, Baylor,
Kansas State,
TCU, Kansas State. Yeah. I mean,
they're. I mean, and it's and almost all of them have come at points in the game where you're like, Oklahoma has a chance to really
Separate.
putting their throat on this team, or the foot on their throat, and he just keeps letting them back into the game and letting them back into the game. And like I said, that's, to me, you can only live like that so long and not get burned.
You think he ever recovered from the Texas hit?
I think he did. I just think he's beat to hell. I mean, he's had 180 carries. His shirt was ripped, like his arm in the post game. Like
Source told me he cut those before he came in.
Really make it look like maybe he'd been
this
through
week.
it.
He's gonna put blood on his face.
Wait, he cut what?
I'm just kidding.
No,
Oh, okay. I was like,
His shirt was ripped, and I was saying that he cut it when he came in.
okay, I know one of them. And it's really weird that we're having this conversation because I was watching it doing the idiot the other day, and I was like, oh, somebody ripped his sleeve there. So like I know one of them was ripped during game action. Now maybe he ripped it on the sidelines. I couldn't be sure, but
it is really weird
looks-
because like the Texas game, he got hurt. I mean, and then he got popped hard in that Baylor game. I mean, it's hard. I mean,
Oh,
his visor flew out of his helmet. He got hit so hard. I mean, he's had the shit knocked out of him.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, in a strange way, it almost feels like OU just needs to get through this one because I think Baylor's a good football team.
Yeah, I mean, they get through this one, they win. I don't know what's going to happen next
Just
week.
find a way to win, and then you worry about the Big 12 championship. I think it's going to be a hell of a game. I think both of these next 2 weeks, and you know, on paper, it's a top 25 road game and a rematch against a top 10 team.
Yeah, what's Utah doing?
Utah's playing Colorado this week and then Oregon. So that's
know
not
what they're
taking
doing, I'm
anything
just
away.
saying.
It just Utah. I think Utah's a good football team. Like I think Oklahoma and Utah on a neutral field. What would the line be?
I would
bet
say
Oklahoma -3
yeah,
or something.
That's what
Okay.
my guess was going to be.
See, I'd even say maybe
I said 5.
I'd say Oklahoma like -2. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah.
Like-
I mean, it'd be tight. It's a one-score game.
But again, though, I mean,
You could even throw a pick 'em out there, and I'd buy it.
reverse Skynet, like there still has to be criteria. You still
Yeah.
have to be held to a standard. Like you want to talk about resumes, you want to talk about all this stuff. I mean, if strength of schedule is that much better and quality wins are that much better,
Edrin Cooper just decommitted.
All right. There you go. Would OU's strength of schedule take a hit? They beat the Cowboys, and then they put OSU outside the top.
well, that's the
top
thing.
25.
It's like, do they want to like? Is Lincoln Riley gonna like tell his players if they're up by 14 at the end of the game, like, hey, let them score. Let's make it look better. They might stay in the top 25. We need this top 25 win.
Or if Kansas State beats Iowa State,
That would be bad, I think.
and so then they lose 2 top 25 wins
Yeah.
without having done anything.
Yeah. No, it would be definitely ammunition for Rob Mullins to, in his, anyone that was, behind the Pac-12 would keep them, give them some ammo to keep them ahead of OU. Which there obviously is sentiment for that in the room.
By the way, oh no, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
Oh, I was just going to say, anybody that is in a member of the board should maybe look into it for Christmas because Josh basically told you in Oklahoma what was about to happen and what unfolded over the last, hour?
That they would get the flip from Wake Forest and then that Edrin Cooper would decommit.
Yes.
It was like I said. It was only not gonna go that way if numbers changed, and I think Oklahoma just kind of got tired of having to prove to Cooper that was the right place to be when they've been there with him all along, and LSU again cannot take him at this moment.
Yet he keeps
kind of
being
hanging on to
involved
hope.
with LSU. Yeah.
You think
Yep,
it's going to
yeah,
be a
and-
situation that he ends up kind of screwing himself
Going
in
to
a
the
way?
Aggies or something?
Well, and that's the thing, Bob. It gets into another OU guy there. Say Antonio Doyle goes to A&M. Then where's Edrin Cooper? Like, he could fall back down to, like, Mississippi State, which is where he chose to not go instead of Oklahoma originally. I mean, he's playing a risky game for sure. And it's a shame because he's had a hell of a senior year. His last 2 playoff games, he had like 40 tackles, I think 3 touchdowns on defense, 1 on offense. Like, he's had a great senior year. It's got nothing to do with him not being good enough. Believe me, OU wanted him to be the guy, but they just couldn't afford to miss out on him and Whitter. They needed one of them.
Yeah, I can't get too upset about anybody that. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, is this like a kind of a reflection of this new defensive staff as far as, I guess what I'm asking is, do you think last year Oklahoma would have tried to wait it out with Cooper and then end up screwing themselves over? But this year you have Grinch and Odom or whoever, they're looking at it and saying, we need to make a decision.
This
here.
guy fits us. We know we got him.
I am not putting this on the Jacob Phillips level, either in talent or the way it played out, but it's not a bad comparison. There is some connection with, it being a situation where OU just held on too long. When everything was telling them you've got to have a backup plan, OU never made one and ended up having to move Kenneth Murray to Mike because of it. Now, that hasn't worked out badly, but still, like that was.
But there were a lot of growing pains involved with that.
Exactly. I mean, you're talking about a kid that you stuck him in as a true freshman to play a position he'd never played before. So that there was an inherent risk in that, and Oklahoma passed up on some other guys they could have had to take that chance. Oklahoma this time, no, they're not doing that, and they just know, and people will say, what about Brian Odom, blah, blah, blah. It's year one, man. People, don't lose your minds on this. Like this, I believe Brian Odom will be a good recruiter given time. He's energetic. He does the stuff. He hits the ground. He does all the things that good recruiters do. It'll happen. Whitter is a good it's a good eval. He's found a good player that can do the things they want to do. And I think the thing and Bob, you can back me up on this, the thing I notice when I see what Alex Grinch and that staff are doing defensively, they don't give a damn what anybody else thinks about a player. Noah Arinze, no one was on Noah Arinze. No one cared about Noah Arinze. I think his best offer when OU offered was I don't even think Missouri had offered him at that point. Like he'd been in Nebraska 3 times and Nebraska hadn't offered him.
And now they're starting to earn the trust of the fans.
Exactly.
It used to be maybe they do that, be like, well, then no one really did come after that kid and it seemed like you were just sort of reaching. If you trust what the coaches' evaluations are, now when you see it, like, oh, okay, they're into someone that nobody knows anything about. Dante Manning's almost in that same category.
In that category.
I mean, these are kids that in February and January didn't have much, and then get the OU offer, bunch of Power 5 start coming in, and you realize, oh, wait a minute, that was a great evaluation early in this process.
In a way, Josh, what you just said about Brian Odom kind of reminds me of what you were kind of basically saying about Calvin Thibodeau 3 years ago.
And people wanted to fire him after that first year. And I was like, guys, you don't know how bad this is. And that defensive line is now the strength of that defense and has Neville Gallimore's a borderline first-round pick right now. Ronnie Perkins is starting to look like that could be his future down the road. Jalen Redmond looks like an NFL guy. I mean, they've got some nice bodies on the defensive line. LaRon Stokes doesn't get any credit, but he's been a really nice addition from last year's class. So they're doing a nice job. I don't think there's any question linebacker play has been much better this year, so you've got to believe Odom can coach them. Now you've got to get, the recruiting has to get going. I get that. Brendan Walker and Shane Whitter, that's not the guys every OU fan dreamed about coming into the year, but they're big athletic guys. And again, I think they fit what Oklahoma's looking for. They can play downhill. They're big enough to hold up because they're going to play in that one gap scheme. So there are just things that they can do with these guys that do fit.
Josh, sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Bob. I'm running on.
The question I had is when Jonathan Perkins went into the portal, was there a need for more than one for this year's class?
That's what surprises me a little bit. Now, that's the problem. I mean, something has to give because it's my opinion, you take all the defensive linemen you can ever take. If you think they're good enough, take them. Find a way. Linebackers, you need the help immediately. In the secondary, holy cow, you need the help immediately.
Especially at safety,
yeah, where do the numbers give? Like, at some point, you just can't take everybody. Like, I get it. So, like, right now, Manning and Eaton are their focus at corner. We've been talking about that for a month. I think Oklahoma probably is still the leader for both of those guys. Then you throw in Kendall Dennis, who came in last weekend from Lakeland, Florida, big-time program, good athlete. How do you not take him? Like, I get it. Like, at some point there has to be a breaking point. I think with Cooper and Oklahoma, I think both sides. I think Cooper needed an excuse to start taking visits and look around, and at the same time, I think Oklahoma needed a reason to give him an ultimatum. So I think they both got what they wanted.
Because if Murray leaves early, and we don't know if he will, but that scene Saturday night
we
post-game,
were both standing there. I put it in the sights and sounds.
That looked like someone enjoying his last moment.
Absolutely, it was a very emotional moment.
Family and friends.
Don't tell me it was because you just wanted to see your parents.
And Brian Meade hasn't played since the Kansas game. Who in the world would be your Mike linebacker heading into 2020? Would you move to Sean White and go with White and Kelly?
I kind of think that's what they would do. But
yeah,
I think that's exactly how it plays. Yep. But I mean, Bob's not wrong. Like, the question exists. Or Asamoah or something. I mean, you talk about the disappearing guy. It's Brian Asamoah.
It's awesome.
Yeah, he's
don't know what he did in the Kansas State game, but he's not played on defense since.
Maybe he was supposed to make sure
teams.
that Parnell didn't kick anybody.
He does all special teams still, but he has not played a snap in terms of going with Deshaun White. And now with Caleb Kelly back, he's really not going to be seeing time.
So, Eddie, Brian Asamoah, instead of being like the kickback coach, he is the non-kick coach, like in the field.
Yes,
There'll be
exactly.
no kicking, gentlemen.
Exactly what I'm thinking. It's going to be interesting to see what they do with Caleb Kelly here over the next, for sure 2 games, but then whether it be the bowl game, and obviously if they're not in the playoffs, you don't have to worry about it. But
exactly.
It would be very interesting to see if, do they try and get away with not playing him this week? Or do they not,
Because
do you
the
wait
rankings yesterday, do you change your mindset?
Right.
I don't know.
And
it'd be awesome if we had like a first take to where Eddie and I could sit here and argue about how OU coaches don't believe they'll make the playoffs because they playing
played
Caleb Kelly.
Oh, I'm sure that there's people out there that will have that argument.
Well, we said the whole time, if they wanted to do it, they'd start at Bedlam. And by starting last week, that was the message they were initially sending. And I loved Caleb's honesty. I don't know if people have checked out that interview from Saturday. It was like a real-time thought process for him. Would I give up my whole senior year just for the fact I could play for the national championship?
And
I personally don't think he would, but who knows?
I wonder if it's not the coaches getting him out there saying, okay, let's see what this looks like, and if it looks good, we can devote more reps and practice to this kid.
You know what's funny is, and it might be because Oklahoma just didn't have many snaps defensively again.
Yeah.
If you would have told me what the over-under was for Caleb Kelly's snaps against TCU, I would have said 20.
I would have said 15.
He had 11.
Yeah.
That was surprising, but
that's 25% of the snaps.
25, and he was out there in the final 2 possessions
drives.
when you need a stop. You're up by 4
Wasn't he
points.
also out there during Duggan's 62-yard run?
He said after the game that he kind of said it was his fault.
Kind of his fault.
Well, first game back.
How did you think he moved, Josh? Just as far as that, I don't know if you watched the post-game video, but he does not like the brace that he has to wear on his knee.
You can tell he looks rusty. He looks like a guy that's not used to moving in it. More than anyone was on that run, watching him chase it from behind. He didn't look like a guy that was running naturally. He looked like a guy that was trying to figure out how to run with that brace on his knee. And you get it. It's amazing that he's even out there right now. That just blows me away. But no, I mean, you could tell he looked rusty. He was, it's such a thing because it's not just rusty, of getting back out there, getting familiar with the contact and all the stuff you've got to do. He's also learning the defense. This isn't a guy, this isn't Mike Stoops' defense that he's played in the last 3 years. He's learning it just like all the freshmen are. He's right basically where they are. He hasn't had enough reps. So it's, like I said, I thought he looked uncomfortable at times. I thought he just wasn't there yet. Now, to me, if I'm Oklahoma, I do my best not to play him this week. I think that's the game where you can give. Because I can't really see a world where Caleb Kelly is the difference in a win against Oklahoma State.
No.
So, like, give him that time, and if he only plays 3 games this season, it's not the end of the world.
I kind of feel like I'm the only person that's not paranoid, but just not for sure thinking that Oklahoma's going to go to Stillwater and win this weekend. Would that be accurate?
I mean, this is just a team that no matter, you just can see them doing it. They're Jekyll and Hyde. I mean, how did they lose to Kansas State? I mean, Kansas State got beat by West Virginia, for God's sake.
Their very next home game was that one, and they lost.
Yeah.
I'm more with you just because I'm looking at that weather and I'm seeing that wind. Jalen Hurts throwing in that wind.
But Drew Brown has a pea shooter for an arm.
They're going to let Chuba run anyway. That doesn't concern what they were going to do.
Gonna be running. Let's go 3-0 2-hour game.
It might be. It
So
might be
I'm
hour
a
15-minute halves.
A little more leaning toward this being more competitive if Jalen Hurts doesn't know how to throw into that east to west. Because, again, it might be the only stadium he's ever played that's east to west instead of north to south.
Damn, I didn't even think about that. We could have blown his mind this week.
The cheese fried at Eskimo Joe's wasn't enough.
I bet there's got to be an east-west stadium in the SEC.
I bet Vanderbilt's east-west. Just, I don't know for a fact.
Smartest school in the
It just
the only
seems like
smart
that's
school in
something
the
that
league.
like a quirk
I'm
that
not saying
Vanderbilt
Jalen
would
Hurts
be.
is an idiot. I'm just saying it'd be something different. And that wind's supposed to be at least 30 to 40 miles per hour Saturday.
Vanderbilt feels like the school that'd be like, we're not actually east to west, we're west to east. That's how our stadium runs. Okay. Whatever works for you, Vanderbilt.
Welcome to Nashville.
Yeah. Love the tin roof.
Josh, what are your responsibilities for Thanksgiving? Or do you just make Linda do everything?
I have 0 responsibilities. There are my mother-in-law and Tiffany cook like crazy, and I make sure the girls don't burn anything down at the in-laws at the in-laws house. But other than that, Thursday's easy. And then hit the road Friday. I'm pretty much gone all day Friday. So it's
Now, is Sooner Man making the trip to Houston?
No. Sooner Man will be of his own. He will be at a different house where all the ladies do the cooking in the McQuistion clan. So, yeah. So he will disagree with me on the turkey take. I didn't really weigh in earlier, but turkey is just not necessary. Thanksgiving is the only meal in my life where the sides outrank the main course.
God, there's just
fair.
See, to me, Thanksgiving is a little bit of turkey on the fork, great mashed potatoes, and nice roll like that, and stuffing. You got to have the dressing or the stuffing.
You want a hot take?
Uh-oh.
Don't burn down my Thanksgiving.
I'm not going to. Mashed potatoes? Nah.
Oh,
Is that a bad
That's
take?
a hot take.
It's not as bad as instant potatoes are better than real.
Oh, no.
Because I know those people. One's my brother.
Yeah, I wouldn't
I
say
need to
that.
call Lanie in here. We had Lanie try mashed potatoes for the first time about 3 weeks ago. Girl pretty much vomited them back up. So she's with Eddie. She's not on the mashed potato kick.
Let me ask you, at the risk of being ostracized by the powers that be in Norman, do you like cheese fries? Little inside joke.
Now, I can say this. Tiffany's dad and stepmother, they live in the Stillwater area. And if you live in that area and need to maybe take a chance at seeing Josh McQuistion out in the wild, every year for Christmas we go to Eskimo Joe's, and that's where we have our Christmas dinner with her family. Yeah, and that's all Lanie wears is Eskimo Joe's stuff. So I can hear the people actually canceling their subscriptions.
Do you remember Mexican Joe's?
I like Mexican Joe's.
It was good.
I think it's still around.
Oh, is it?
I think so.
Yeah, I think so. I think they're still signed.
But
I never go to that side of Stillwater.
Giuseppe Joe's.
Apparently, Stillwater.
That's the Italian place, right?
Yeah, the Italian place is done.
Is it?
Yeah, that's done.
Apparently, there are 2 very good Mexican restaurants in Stillwater, and I was going to meet some friends there the last time OU played because I was going to go the night before. It didn't actually end up doing that.
It was the big snowstorm, wasn't it?
That was like 4 years ago. I don't know.
Okay.
Anyway, I thought, Well, that's interesting. And then when I saw the news that ICE had raided two Mexican restaurants.
El Vaquero's gone.
In Stillwater, I was like, damn, they do have really good Mexican food there. Is that racist?
El Vaquero is good.
Was good.
So it's gone?
It sounds like it got
It got raided.
Got iced.
Yeah, it got iced. But if you were like 12 and you wanted to drink, just go to El Vaquero. It was
That
awesome.
sounds like the Golden Dragon in
It
Lawton.
was awesome. Well, it didn't have naked women, but I guess maybe if you knocked 3 times on the bathroom door, you could.
If you just had a flat top, you could be 9 and you paid for a beer, you could have a beer at Golden Dragon.
Probably.
Those Vietnamese people did not care that ran that joint. Anyway, any other business you guys want to hit on?
Recruiting. We haven't talked anything.
I thought that's all we've talked.
Well, of like where we've been and what we're seeing, because
Okay.
we got some good stuff coming up.
Bob and I went up to. You want to start there with Beggs? Went up to Chisholm, America last week.
North Enid,
Never had
man,
been there.
Way out there.
It was fun though. We were able to see Coach Ross. We met him
Coach Ross,
from the
shout out.
board. Shout out. It was a lot of fun though because I didn't really know what to expect going in.
Because Chisholm was expected to win.
Yeah, they were, and Beggs kind of beat that ass. And like, I'm not going to say that I'm handicapping the 2A playoffs, but I would have a hard time thinking that anybody, or not anybody, but I would think that Beggs now has a home game. We'll get to at least the semifinals.
Where they would potentially play Metro Christian, who is the #1 ranked team in the semis.
I think that'd be a fun game. Kendall Daniels obviously is one of the bigger names in the
Man,
2021
big kid.
class. We were sending back video. He's a good ball player.
I felt like I was there with you guys.
He
in
is
the video.
someone who didn't play as a freshman. You can see how much better he's getting.
Absolutely. And, Josh, I'm sure that you watched the highlights and stuff, but I kind of left thinking, I think the Easton Davis kid is a very good football player.
Number 40.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, I really like that kid a lot.
Like, he is just a kind of an old-fashioned, he's going to play fullback. He does it all at a 2A school. He can play football somewhere. I don't think, I'm not saying he could come to Oklahoma and be the Butkus winner. He would be a contributor, though, on special teams or something.
And Eddie, you do have an opening in your walk-on in-state fullback category.
I know.
Pour one out.
I need
Kobe.
to go back and look at his hair and see if we can get anywhere close to what
Should he be forced to cut it if he
Tillman had.
Like if you take that
But-
much hair in the portal, maybe you come out like mangled.
You go in the portal with that type of hair, you might just end up in San Francisco when it's all said and done.
The interesting thing with Davis is a lot of times when you get these guys that Tillman is a good example. That kind of the preferred walk-on in-state guys from good programs. They're real developed. They spend a lot of time in the weight room. They are all the cliches, the coach's kid, the workout warrior, all that stuff. Easton Davis is not that guy, and that's not to say like he's not a guy that's putting in the time. He just hasn't had a lot of that development yet. It hasn't happened for him. And I'm very interested to see if he's one of those guys that goes to a program. Like I know Oklahoma State's already offered him a preferred walk-on. Mm-hmm. I think Oklahoma's entertaining the same idea. He's one of those guys that could blow up physically. Like he is. I mean, you guys saw him up close.
Big kid.
He looks
He's
like he's
so
got like
lean.
2% body fat. I mean,
Yep.
He's one of those
big in
guys
frame.
he's one of those guys where he looks odd in a football uniform because his hip pads are bigger than he is, than his buttocks.
I don't know.
But he made some plays in that game, offense and defense.
he was a really good player. And obviously, we interviewed Kendall Daniels. That interview, as well as an article coming from Bob, will run on the site probably this afternoon, I would think.
It doesn't matter.
Today or tomorrow.
Yep.
For your Thanksgiving reading.
It'll be up.
Yeah, we'll have a lot of content, tomorrow when you guys are done eating your turkey and you need to go take a big shit or something.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be great
Good
toilet reading.
Mm-hmm.
CJ Brown, good running back, already has the Nebraska offer, another player at Beggs. But, between those three guys, I think Beggs is a pretty good football team.
Yeah, when you have three guys like that at the 2A level, you almost want, like, how do you get beat? How did Sperry beat them for the district championship? And when you look at Daniels, I don't think his future is on offense, and I think it's just going to come down to the fact, is he fluid enough as a free safety, which is what he's playing now, what he's trying to learn, or is he just going to grow into that body and be an outside backer? I mean, that's what it feels like. I'm not saying he's like Calvin Bundage, but it's kind of feels that same thing where Calvin wanted to be a safety, but we all sort of knew when he reached college he wasn't going to be a safety. So I kind of see that with Daniels, but we'll see how he progresses next year. And Josh, just kind of wonder what you think of the way that he's performed throughout what's been a pretty stellar junior year.
Oh, yeah. Daniels, I've said all along, I don't think there's anybody in that 2021 class in state that has a bigger upside. Like, Daniels could be, I mean, if the cards broke right and he can fill out and, kind of take on the role of a linebacker, I hate to say it, but I mean, there's NFL stuff there within his capabilities. It's just, I mean, now it's a long way to go because he is so lean. He's never played linebacker. I mean, there's a lot of places, a lot of boxes you have to check before you can get to that conversation. But just pure upside and athleticism. I mean, that picture you guys took of him standing kind of like next to the huddle of his team and like the closest guy is like at his shoulders and everybody's like, oh, they must be little. No, he's huge. Like, he's a big guy. You don't realize it until you're standing next to him. Like, I'm 6'1", and he is considerably taller than me when I stand next to him. So that's a big dude that, like I said, you can see what Oklahoma's thinking there. And part of me wonders if you don't look at him some as like a rush guy where he doesn't have to have okay, I'm going to read it, I'm going to see it, I'm going to attack it. Man, I'm just going to go chase. I'm going to go get the ball. I'm going to let my natural athleticism take over.
Is there any, just tell me straight up if I'm completely wrong, but is there any similarity to what we saw out of a young Will Sunderland?
Yeah. Eddie, you watched Will back then too, and I know, Bob, you did as well.
Yep. Long and lanky for sure.
Yeah. Will wasn't quite as long, wasn't quite as big in frame, but also was a better when I watched Will, I was like, okay, he can play safety. Like, he has the feet for it. He can change direction a little more naturally. Kendall, like Bob was saying earlier, where offense probably isn't his future, I think it's because he's just not that elite with his change of direction where you can look at him and say, oh, yeah, you could see him dropping 40 yards and playing center field and that kind of – like, I don't see that for him. Just because, if no other reason, his body is just going to take over at some point, and he's going to eat 5,000 calories a day on a college campus and be 230 pounds and not know how it happened. He's just a big, big dude that just hasn't filled out his body yet.
And then, Josh, you saw someone last week, and you're going to see him again this week.
Yeah, it was one of those deals where the only game that really made any sense for me was to go see Frisco Lone Star against College Station, and it was the first chance to see Marvin Mims up close. That's not fair. I had seen him at a camp last year, the same camp. We saw Theo Weiss and those guys out, but Marvin Mims was not on our radar. We're watching Theo Weiss and Trajan Bridges and all those guys at that point. That wasn't really our focus. So it was my first chance to really watch Mims and be focused on him. He had 9 catches for 285 yards and 3 touchdowns. I mean, not the worst introduction I've ever had to a player. His first play from scrimmage, he went 65 yards. The first play, the second half, he went 85 yards, and then he had another 50-yard touchdown. I knew I liked Marvin Mims. He was better than I thought he would be. He is a guy that made plays on bubble screens, on vertical passes, working across the middle, had a big kickoff return in the second half. I mean, he was a guy that really did everything for Lone Star. And you could tell College Station, I mean, they were you can see on the video, we've got a story up from the game. They were bracketing him. They weren't even trying to hide it. There was no, we're going to be clever about this. They had a corner pretty much playing press, and then a safety shaded just a little bit inside of him no matter where he went. They were just doubling him all night, and he still averaged over 30 yards a catch. I mean, he was great.
And then before you get to Friday, I know OU fans are going to be wondering, is he a 250 guy based on what he's done?
I think he's right there. I think that I definitely think he is a 4-star, and I think that will probably be reflected in the next updates that should be coming, I think, next week, couple of weeks. It will be before signing day. There'll be a new update to the rankings. He'll make a move forward. I don't know if it'll be 250, but I think that's a completely valid conversation. I mean, I compared him. The numbers he is putting up are incredibly comparable to what CeeDee Lamb did.
Yes, they are.
And he's doing it against slightly better competition. I mean, not wildly better, but a little bit better.
So, Josh, are you going back to see him again because he played so well and you want someone to, break their leg or something while you're there?
Well, yeah. I didn't do anything wrong. Lone Star came out of the game healthy. I spoke to the head coach afterwards. He didn't cuss me. It's a weird sensation. I don't really know how to feel about it.
They were smart enough not to let you in their locker room and really get you embedded. Greg Vandergrift did.
Hey, Prince Avenue listens to this, and I want to say that was one of the finest decisions they ever made. So I had nothing to do with the injury, Greg. So please just ignore that. But
speaking of just unbelievable performances,
yeah, no kidding.
He had 8 touchdowns, and they got beat.
Wow.
He being Brock Vandegrift last weekend. That's a rough way to go out for to end your junior season. That must have been a hell of a game. I know Chad Simmons was down there.
Yeah, Chad raved about it. I mean, he actually, for those that haven't seen it, Chad made a video when he got home from the game that was just like, anybody doubting Brock Vandegrift as a 5-star, stop it. Just stop. It's over. And
I'm ready to put him on the ginger athletic head Mount Rushmore.
Ooh, already?
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's bold. That's huge. But yeah, 29 of 46 for 525, 6 touchdowns, also ran for 79 yards and 2 more scores. They lost 62-57 to the 4-time defending state champions in Georgia.
Wow.
I mean,
it's a hell of a high school football game.
Yeah, like you could tell Chad was, we talked a little bit since then, like he was almost out of breath when the game was over. It was, I mean, we've all been to that kind of game where it's just, whoever has the ball last is going to win.
Sure.
And he was, and there were, I know we don't want to get too far afield. Trevin West had a huge game, had 166. It was a really good week for OU commitments. Jace McClellan had 240 yards and basically 2.5 quarters of football. I mean, and I guess that leads us pretty naturally into what we're doing Friday. So we'll get into that. As mentioned, going to see Marvin Mims again. I'm going to go to Eddie and I. Golly. Eddie and I are going to AT&T Stadium on Friday. The noon game is Duncanville and Arlington Martin. Duncanville has Kendrick Blackshire. Obviously, he won't play. Was at Oklahoma last weekend. Eddie actually saw him going around with some of the OU staff.
Let me sidebar on that real quick. I don't think that I grasped, and I had seen Kendrick Blackshire at a Rivals event.
Yeah.
That guy, outside of Kenneth Murray, he literally looks like a college football player right now. It's incredible. Like, standing next to Kenneth Murray, it's like, oh, those guys must be the same age. It's insane. Kendrick Blackshire is humongous.
Yep. He is and he's looked like that since he was a freshman. Like, he's just one of those anomalies. He's just a freak guy. But yeah, he was there, and I don't know that we'd actually reported that. I think we all knew it. Now that I'm saying it, I don't know that we ever actually put that on the board, so my bad on that.
Put it in the pregame thread.
Okay, perfect. At least it's there somewhere. And I read the pregame thread, so clearly, that's not my fault at all. But no, so that is the early game, Duncanville and Arlington Martin. Duncanville does have 5-star offensive tackle Savion Byrd that Oklahoma really wants, is trying to get him up for a visit. I would be surprised if he isn't a junior day visitor or something along those lines in the coming months. The middle game is Frisco Lone Star, where Marvin Mims is, against Highland Park, where Chandler Morris, Oklahoma's quarterback offer, is. So that should be a lot of fun because those are 2 really good offenses. Eddie's going to basically go from filming Marvin Mims to immediately going to Chandler Morris. We're going to have a lot of highlights. I feel pretty confident about that. And then the nightcap is Aledo playing Royce City. And Aledo obviously has Jace McClellan. So we get a chance to watch him for the first time live. I would expect a big night out of him, and that game probably will be over pretty early just because they're really, really good.
What? I guess
I'm sorry, Red Oak. I said Royce City. Red Oak. I'm sorry.
Same thing. They're going to get their ass kicked.
Yeah, it's not going to be good.
What would you handicap that Lone Star Highland Park game as?
I wouldn't.
Over under or what?
Would Highland Park be favored?
No, they've already played once this year, and Lone Star beat them. I think 31.
Oh, I remember that, and that was at Highland Park.
Yep.
I think that ended a long winning streak for Highland Park at home.
Yeah,
if I remember
Lone Star
correctly.
beat them 30-19 at Highland Park earlier this year. So
Parents went home and cried in their money.
Yeah, now that was the third week of the year. So I mean, obviously
Especially
a lot's
for the poor
changed
people
since
that live
then.
in University Park.
But yeah, no, it's one of those games where, like, if you look at the early season, you're like, okay, it'll be in the 30s, maybe a 35-31 kind of game. But if a Brock Vandegrift game broke out, it wouldn't shock me. I mean, Eddie, if we're there until 8 o'clock watching that game, it won't be that stunning. It could be a true shootout because both those teams like to throw the ball a lot.
Very cool. I'm excited. I'm excited for Friday. I've always wanted to
Battery coming with?
go down there. Oh, yeah.
That
And
is
Bob,
exciting.
and Bob has plans.
I do. Get to stay close to home. Got Weatherford Tuttle. It's 1 p.m. Friday, so that's actually the nice and early. Ethan Downs. See if the Eagles can upset the Tigers. I think Tuttle's expected to win. But, Downs is someone, again, what you like about games like this, is the only way Weatherford's going to win is if Downs is as good as he was the night we saw him against Chickasha. He's going to have to be even better if they're going to beat Tuttle. So it's definitely going to be worth it.
And he's played really well down the stretch. Like, he had, I think, like 110 yards receiving last week or something. I mean, he's more than done his part for Weatherford to kind of put them on this run.
They're not expected to win, but this should be a good one. I think about Weatherford Tuttle, and that 4A really opened up because Bethany lost to Wagner. Bethany was the number one team in the class, so everyone believes they got a shot at the gold ball now.
It's because they look like the Colts. Jinx themselves.
Josh is on the
just
pod.
trying to start some shit. Just trying to start some shit.
I've sat here and just been quiet. All right,
I think
you guys do your recruiting talk, so I'm gonna start some shit.
The Colts. Are we done with recruiting talk? I think the Colts. That's a team you do not want to play. Like, if they sneak into the wild card, they can run the ball. I kind of like the Colts. I like what the Colts have been doing.
Oh, I think they're a pretty good team. That's why I'm.
Can we?
Taking shots.
Can we?
I'd trust them more than my Cowboys.
Can't. Cowboys.
Yeah, I know. There's nothing you can say
coach.
that's going to make me like, F you, Eddie.
It's just so embarrassing. Jason Garrett, I'm not even a Cowboys fan. I mean, I like watching him or whatever, but he just sucks. He sucks so bad, and just in general.
I just
want to punch him in the face.
Dak Prescott may be the biggest mirage that's ever existed in the league.
Well, when you take the ball out of his hands, though, it's just like the whole product of the Dallas Cowboys is a joke.
The phantom tripping call. I mean, I don't know that they would have won the game. They weren't going to win that game anyway, but it's just a way. It's like someone is writing a script for this team, like up in a corner of right outside the replay booth, and it's just like following it to a T. It's a joke of it. It's just a joke. The whole thing's a joke.
You know, it isn't a joke. My favorite subject in the world.
Oh, God. Here we go.
The Texas Longhorn football program.
Yeah.
They're on one this week.
Camping World's excited.
Between looking up Florida State BS and Texas BS, I'm just swimming in football glory right now.
We really need for Kerry to have the automatic audio of Sam doing the "We're Back" at the Sugar Bowl last year.
I can do that.
That needs to be. That needs to probably
become a part of the pod.
Yeah.
Which they're now 6 and 5 cents.
Should We're Back replace Anchorman? Is it time after so many years?
I think we should put that on the table. Maybe leave it up to the listeners.
Mm-hmm.
I think I know what they would vote.
Maybe make a Twitter poll.
Who are currently voting on what they're more surprised by, the fact that Bob has never had Taco Bell or Eddie has never seen Terminator 2.
Well, that shouldn't be surprising.
Well, it's not Terminator 2.
It's
It's just
shocking
any
that
Terminator.
somebody hasn't eaten Taco Bell in 2019. I think everybody knows the last movie I saw was
What about
Avatar.
Bueno? You ever had Taco Bueno?
What was in
Okay, I'm leaving.
What was in Kate Center? What
that was Mayo.
Then I had Taco Mayo, and that was terrible, and that's I kind of
Taco Mayo runs you on fast food.
on
Mexican.
taco, yeah.
Let's not mess with potential sponsors.
Taco Mayo, me baby. No,
I'm not a big Taco
is there any
Mayo
way that
guy.
Texas fires Tom Herman?
No.
No way.
Well, he's already throwing all his assistants under the bus.
I know. What if they're just like, Bud, we're talking about you.
Oh no, he's more than he's. I mean, you've talked about it a lot. He's willing to bury a body.
Oh, he might kill Todd Orlando before they fire him.
Well, Tim Beck is first getting the axe.
Sure, I would agree with that. It's gonna be interesting.
Probably his offensive line coach too.
I will be
By the
openly
way,
cheering for Texas Tech. I would love to see them go 6-6.
I sat there and watched Cosme just get dominated against Baylor. Like, you want to talk about all the things that have happened wrong for Texas, like Sam Ehlinger, terrible year. But like, I think everyone thought, is it Samuel Cosme? Is that his first name?
Yeah, that's him.
Thank God it's not Cosby.
After that, good one.
He'd be putting everybody to sleep.
After that West Virginia game where he had that, that running play where they threw the ball to him, it became like, this guy's an All-American. And it has just been straight downhill ever since then.
I was right there on that, leading that bandwagon. If I have to own all the stuff I get right, I've got to own the ones I get wrong too. So,
but you can pretty much say that about everybody on Texas's deal. Like, I was a big Eagles fan, and he's disappeared. I think he quit the team at one point. That was a rumor.
That was, yeah. Like, I know he missed several practices there for a while. What, guys? We said it several weeks ago where we were, we were talking about what's more likely: Texas to go 8-4, Texas to go 6-6, and they are staring 6-6 in the face. Like, would it shock anybody if Texas Tech went in there and won?
Yeah, because Texas Tech is, I think they might be the second worst team in the conference.
They lost to Kansas.
I know.
Yeah.
How'd they beat Cowboys?
Yeah, that was just
That
I
was
know.
Spencer Sanders'
It
worst
was just
day.
turnover. It was turnovers. They turned the ball over
That
5
was
times.
Spencer
You're going to get
Sanders
beat by
going,
anybody.
I'm going to do an impression of Jalen Hurts' entire season in one day.
God,
Well,
I'm telling you.
Texas narrowly avoided Kansas at home.
Yeah, that's
Texas
true.
Texas got a game from West Virginia.
Kansas is. I mean, I predicted that Kansas would beat Kansas State the week after OU beat them because Kansas had shown some fight.
They got, what,
And
38-3?
Kansas State beat the shit out of them.
I don't think it's going to happen, but Baylor better go up there and show up.
Have we heard
Texas
anything
hasn't
about
beaten-
Brewer?
The last I saw, Rule said he was okay.
Texas hasn't beaten a team by more than 11 since they beat Rice on September 14th.
Jesus.
And that 11-point win was over West Virginia.
That's crazy. It's just been awesome.
It's unbelievable.
It's been awesome.
Unbelievable.
It couldn't happen to a better person.
We haven't seen Tom Herman suffer enough though yet.
No,
Like, they can't
we
get
need,
rid of him.
You need
yet.
another year of this.
I mean,
It's nothing personal. I want to see
him,
Michelle leave him.
To see, to see him humbled next year in Arlington during Big 12 Media Days will be something.
You know he won't be, though. Texas come in. They'll be a top 15 team. They're going to turn it around.
There's no way they're top 15.
We're not young
guarantee
anymore.
you.
Who are they going to beat in the Walmart Sweatpants Bowl? Well, it's a Camping World Bowl now.
Maybe North Carolina. Maybe Mac.
Ooh.
I'm personally cheering for Texas Bowl
It is
to get Texas and A&M.
ACC, so
Yeah.
yeah, it'll be, could be careful.
I want them to go to the Texas Bowl, Texas and Texas A&M. I think that'd be fun.
Can the ACC even fill their bowl allotment this year?
I have no idea. Outside of Clemson, to be honest, I don't pay attention to that conference. Like,
Pitt.
just for example, who's Clemson going to play in the ACC championship?
Well, it's either Pitt.
Virginia Tech's 8 and 3.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is coming on. They're in the rankings this week.
They put them in the rankings now, Eddie. They're like 24.
But I think Virginia is the other one.
Eddie.
Who did Virginia Tech get beat by earlier this year? That was just embarrassing.
I think it was, they got beat by Old Dominion one year,
Dominion.
but I don't know if it was this
It
year.
wasn't this year.
Oh, well, they got beat by somebody.
It might have been App State or like.
I'm looking.
Is Virginia Tech playing Virginia this week?
They got beat by Duke. They got beat 45-10 by Duke.
That's it.
And beat Furman by 7.
Oh, my God.
Furman. Sounds like a racist.
Now, they played Notre Dame tough in South Bend. So, they've got some.
Notre Dame sucks.
The bad part is this is Bud Foster's last year.
That was the Bud Foster game was against Duke. That's right.
Oh, yeah.
They were honoring Bud, and they lost 45-10.
Yeah, Texas is a disaster. And I would almost just, if I were Tom Herman, I would just be like, Sam, it's good knowing you. You want to go in the portal? Because we're going in another direction.
Who?
Casey
A freshman.
Thompson?
a freshman. They're going to be like, just announce it now. Just like announce Sam Ehlinger will no longer be our quarterback. He can stay here or transfer, but we need, if you're a top 2020 quarterback, please come here. We're ready to start over. Do they have a commitment in this class for a 2020 kid?
Jaquindon? Or is he expected to be quarterback?
Nobody's looking it up. Nobody cares. Nobody gives a shit at this time.
I was trying to look it up. but
Hudson Card.
Hudson Card?
Oh, okay.
Yep. The kid out of Lake Travis.
Yes.
It's more
Which
Austin,
is, obviously.
more Austin
Yeah.
trash.
Well, I mean, they've done so well in recruiting the Austin area when it comes to quarterbacks. Drew Brees, Nick Foles, Baker Mayfield.
Yeah.
I mean, they've made some good choices.
All right. I think that'll about do it.
That was a good one. Happy Bedlam week.
Happy Thanksgiving. Want to thank everybody for listening. I know Eddie and I have been getting a lot of people lately hitting us up just in public, and we always love that. If you're a podcast listener, subscriber, feel free to stop
No
us,
better
say
feeling.
hello. Yeah. I was in Whataburger the other day, and a very nice gentleman from San Antonio was in there, and I was trying to do the good thing and do it on the app, but then the drive-through line was like all the way into the Goodwill parking lot. So I went inside and
Still not there yet. I don't know.
you haven't done the app? It's simple.
I know. It'd probably be easier.
And all you do is you just drive up and they say, do you have the app? And you're like, yep, my name is this. And you just drive on through. You don't have to get your card out, anything. So anyway, nice gentleman. Stopped me, told me how much he enjoyed the podcast. Said he's from San Antonio, listened all the time. So always enjoy that. I know Eddie gets a lot of that stuff down on the field. But we want to wish you all a happy Thanksgiving. Enjoy the time with your families. And then we'll see you after the Bedlam game on the Eskridge Lexus post game. Thanks to Midfirst Bank. As always, go check them out, midfirst.com/U40, and sign up for the OU Rewards credit card. Thanks to Josh McQuistion. Thanks to Eddie Radosevich. Thanks to Bob Prisbillo. I am Kerry Murdoch, and we see you guys next time right back here on the Midfirst Bank Unofficial 40 podcast from SoonerScoop.com.